So for my research project, I chose the question, what methods do various library websites use to promote nonfiction? And so the research method that I used for this was observation and usability. And my procedures were to observe the websites of 2 high school library websites and 2 public library websites, and just kind of see what they did to promote those nonfiction sources, whether those be books or encyclopedias or what have you. So then I recorded my observations, again, specifically what I observed about how those nonfiction works were promoted. And then I also researched literature published on EBSCO, the database, about what they had to say about nonfiction being promoted on library websites. And then I kind of took all that information I put together to analyze the results and make suggestions based on what I researched. So the research subject and objects for this research project was 2 high school and 2 public library websites. And so we'll get to those results here in a little bit. But I wanted to jump to first what I reviewed in the literature review. And that, first of all, was that fiction books are easier to promote, I think, and a lot of times they're more possibly like whimsical, and we can kind of exaggerate them, and people like to get away into a whole nother realm, whenever they're reading those. It might be a little bit easier to be creative with those. So in ways they're easier to promote. But we can do planned promotion of books, and that can prove to be very valuable. I read that in one of the literature pieces that I looked at. Book talks and trailers are a great promotion method for any type of resource, but again, specifically, I'm just trying to think of ways to promote nonfiction more often. And another thing that I got from my review was that nonfiction is still vital in culture. Specifically, the website I reviewed was the Chinese culture, but that can be applied to any and all cultures, obviously. And then the last piece of literature, the last article that I reviewed was about gaming. And again, obviously, gaming is probably easier to use with fiction resources and books, but I do think that we can think outside of the box and use games and things like that to promote non-fictional materials on websites. So like I said, we come back to the high school and the public library observations. And I just took a snip of what I put on my actual report that I turned in to just show you what kind of notes that I took as I was observing these. So first of all, here's the high school library observations. I looked at 2 different high schools, one Hanover High School and one Eastern High School. And both of them had a separate list of books that were popular, I guess. One had, the Hanover High School had a new books section. Eastern High School had a summer reads section. And the one at Eastern High School included the book description, an image of what the book looked like, and some of those on there were nonfiction, and so were the books at the Hanover the Hanover website. Both of the websites had tabs for students, parents, staff members to look up nonfiction resources such as stuff about science and social studies, encyclopedias, research databases, magazines, all of those things. So those websites did promote in that way nonfiction resources by allowing people to be able to click on them. The public library observations were very similar. The Nelson County Public Library had a Goodreads tab. The Louisville Public Library had a Reader's Corner tab. And again, nonfiction books were included in those, so they were definitely being promoted. And again, just through more links to scholarly articles, digital magazines, things like that, which are, again, also nonfiction resources. So after looking at the different websites and the different pieces of literature that kind of supported the question that I was, seeking out, I analyzed that nonfiction resources are being promoted to some degree, but as a whole, libraries aren't doing much work on their websites to promote those specifically. Because other genres of books and resources were promoted a little bit more often. So, I think that there are some things that we can do to do a better job at promoting those nonfiction sources. But again, there are different methods that have been used to promote fictional, and other genres of books that can also be used to promote nonfiction. So again, my recommendations for this would be to use methods that have already been proven to be effective for nonfiction. You might as well give it a shot, and then continue to seek out more out-of-the-box ways to promote nonfiction other than those things that have already been done. And then lastly, before I do my animation video, is the limitations of this research project. I did a lot of generalizing, mainly because I did just look at 2 high school library websites and 2 public library websites, and then I just kind of used that as an overall representation. And so again, I know that I could have found more information if I would have kept on looking. But now we're going to go to the Powtoon, which is basically what I did. I just summarized all of my research onto the Powtoon. It was pretty cool. I actually enjoyed making it. So pull that up on here. Anyway, I can't make it smaller for whatever reason. So I'm gonna go ahead. There we go. There we go. So there you have it. What methods do various library websites use to promote nonfiction? Like I said, I think we do some, but I think that we can do better. So I hope that you all enjoy this, and good luck with your last research projects.